Women do this when pretending not to like a guy. She likes you, really. Psychology tricks. Love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. Aristotle. Let's be honest. Trying to solve mixed signals by guessing is a fast way to drain your confidence and waste your time. If a woman likes you but doesn't want to show her cards yet, it usually won't look like obvious flirting. It often looks like the opposite. Small power moves, tiny retreats, that casual, I don't care act that somehow still keeps you hooked. And here's the key. When she actually likes you but is pretending she doesn't, her behavior becomes strangely consistent, not random, not chaotic. It follows patterns, repeatable, predictable patterns, once you know what to watch for. In this video, I'm going to break those patterns down so you stop misreading her distance as rejection and start responding in a way that makes her feel emotionally safe enough to step closer. Because one final signal matters more than all the rest. It tells you whether her no is truly the end or whether it's a test, a pause, a guarded door that might open only if you handle it like a grounded man. Before we jump in, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. 1. She ends the moment right when it turns good. When a woman is pretending not to like you but actually does, one of the clearest signals shows up in a moment most men completely misread. She ends the interaction right when it starts to feel good, not because she's uninterested, but because it's starting to feel too real for her comfort. You're at a friend's birthday party. The noise fades into the background. The conversation suddenly clicks. Your body relaxes. Her laughter becomes natural instead of polite, and her eyes stay locked on yours just a little longer than necessary. And then, right at the peak, she checks her phone, mentions grabbing her coat, or invents a reason to disappear for several minutes. Most men instantly label that as rejection and start scrambling for control, but that reaction ignores the basics of female psychology and misses one of the most subtle psychology tricks at play. Don't assume distance equals disinterest. Be calm. That is the moment where emotional exposure begins to rise, and for many women, that internal warmth triggers self-protection rather than pursuit. She's not leaving because the connection failed. She's stepping away because it succeeded too quickly. In female psychology, attraction doesn't always move forward in a straight line. It often pulls back to regulate emotion, especially when she hasn't decided yet how safe it feels to let herself fall. You must resist the urge to chase, follow, text, or mentally spiral, because chasing tells her the moment owned you, and that quietly collapses the tension. Stay exactly where you are. Hold your posture. Keep your energy grounded. When she returns, and she often does, your response matters more than anything that happened before. Smile lightly. Don't interrogate. Don't perform. Simply acknowledge her absence with relaxed curiosity, something human and unthreatening like, "You vanished on me, everything okay?" Then shift the frame with something simple and present, such as, "Come stand with me for a second." This shows emotional steadiness without pressure, a core principle in how to fall in love without forcing it. If instead you punish her with emotional withdrawal, sarcasm, or later send anxious messages trying to recreate the moment, the quiet opening she created closes just as quietly, not with drama, but with finality. That's why these psychology tricks aren't about manipulation. They're about understanding pacing, regulation, and emotional safety. Be steady when the moment wobbles. Be grounded when the energy shifts. That is how you communicate strength without words, and that is why men who understand female psychology don't rush attraction. They allow it to breathe. When you respond with calm instead of urgency, you show her that connection doesn't overwhelm you, and paradoxically, that's often what makes her feel safe enough to want more. 2. She makes a joke the second it starts feeling real. 2. She makes a joke the second it starts feeling real, and this moment quietly separates men who understand emotional pacing from men who unknowingly break it. Picture this. You're walking her to her car after a date that felt unexpectedly good. Not loud, not flashy, just real. The air is cold. Your hands are in your pockets. There's that subtle pause where something could happen if no one rushes it. You say something honest, nothing dramatic, just a clean sentence that comes from presence instead of performance. And right away, she turns it into a joke. "Aw, look at you getting sentimental," she says, teasing you like a little brother instead of a man she might replay in her head later. Most men hear that tone shift and immediately retreat. They assume they crossed a line. They assume sincerity was a mistake. Don't do that. Be grounded. That joke is not dismissal. That is protection. When she likes you, the stakes rise, and her mouth reaches for humor the same way a hand reaches for a rail in the dark. This is where understanding how to attract women quietly matters. In moments like this, female behavior isn't about mockery, it's about control. Her internal dialogue is basically, if I laugh, I don't have to blush. Humor becomes a safety helmet. It lets her deflect exposure without fully shutting the door. That is why a high-value man doesn't explain himself and doesn't get embarrassed. Don't apologize for sincerity. Don't overcorrect. Don't rush forward either. You must hold the line with warmth and just a touch of spine. Something simple, something grounded, something like, "Yeah, I'm allowed one sincere sentence per evening. Don't ruin my streak." Then stop. Let 2 seconds of silence sit there. Silence matters. Silence signals that a confident person lives in your body. That pause communicates masculine energy without saying a word, and that energy is what allows her nervous system to relax. Here's the consequence most men never see coming. If you collapse into apology, "Sorry, that was dumb," she doesn't think you're polite. She learns that emotional weight makes you wobble, and wobble feels unsafe. If you push for a kiss right after her joke, she learns you can't read pacing. You skip the signal, you broke the rhythm. But if you stay calm and lightly playful, you teach her something powerful. It's safe to stop performing around you. That is how you attract women who want something real, not just attention. Watch closely what happens next. The jokes soften, the teasing loses volume, and instead of humor, she starts hiding behind logic instead. Questions, rational statements, little explanations. That's the next layer. Different shield, same attraction. A high-value man recognizes this shift and doesn't flinch. Don't chase reassurance. Be present. That is how masculine energy stabilizes the moment. You must understand this isn't about clever lines. It's about emotional steadiness. When she jokes instead of leaning in, she's not pushing you away. She's checking whether you can stay centered while she hides. Pass that test, and you don't need to force chemistry. You allow it, and that's how attraction deepens without pressure. 3, she gets weirdly fair with you like you're on trial. When a woman gets strangely fair with you, as if you're suddenly on trial, don't misread it as disinterest, because this is often what happens when she likes you, but is trying very hard not to fall too fast, and understanding this changes everything about how you respond. The questions sound ordinary on the surface, but the energy feels structured, deliberate, almost formal, like you're having coffee and she asks, out of nowhere, what you're really looking for right now, how you handle conflict, what your friendships are like. You feel that internal shift where your mind says, "Why do I feel evaluated all of a sudden?" This is where most men lose ground by either turning themselves into a sales pitch or becoming tense and defensive, trying to prove worth instead of simply being present. Old Stoic wisdom teaches something very different, because as Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one," and that principle applies directly here. When she acts fair on purpose, she's using rules as emotional guardrails, not to reject you, but to protect herself from being swept away, to slow things down, to gather data. The crucial insight is this: she only runs this internal evaluation on men who matter enough to evaluate. If she didn't care, you'd get shallow conversation, polite laughter, and an easy exit, nothing more. Modern life has trained people to guard their emotions carefully, especially when attraction feels real. This moment is not about impressing her. It's about showing steadiness, because Stoicism win is never about forcing outcomes. It's about mastering your inner state. Epictetus made it clear when he said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, meaning you don't need to perform, you don't need to win the interview, you need to answer like a grounded human being, not a candidate seeking approval. When she watches how you respond, she's listening for emotional stability, for calm honesty, for an iron mind that doesn't wobble under pressure. You answer simply, clearly, without hiding, and without oversharing. You say what you're looking for in a calm way, not chaotic. Then you hand the question back to her because connection is mutual, not a test you pass alone. You keep your tone relaxed because tension signals insecurity, while ease signals self-command. If you try to win, the energy gets heavy and she closes off. But if you treat it like two adults learning about each other, she softens without ever admitting she softened. That's the quiet victory. This is where old Stoic wisdom meets modern dating because the goal is not to chase interest. It's to embody stability. Repeat it, live it, let others feel it. When you do this consistently, Stoicism win becomes a lived experience, not a concept. Your iron mind shows up in your voice, your pace, your presence. Over time, women don't feel pressured around you. They feel safe, curious, and drawn in because, as Marcus Aurelius also reminded us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. And in this context, the best response to silent evaluation is calm authenticity, repeated again and again until attraction unfolds naturally, and you master not just the moment, but yourself. If this hit home, act on it right now. Don't perform. Don't audition. Stay grounded. Stay calm. That's where real attraction lives. Drop a comment below and lock it in. I don't prove myself. I stay centered. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp psychological insight, and remember this: when she asks real questions, it's not rejection. It's interest testing your strength. 4. She replies late but remembers a tiny detail you forgot you said. When a woman replies late but remembers a tiny detail you forgot you even shared, pay attention, because this is one of the most misunderstood signals in female psychology and one of the quiet psychology tricks that separates men who guess from men who understand. You send a simple message and the reply doesn't come fast, not because she's overwhelmed or distracted, but because she's deliberately spacing it out, managing her timing, performing calm, signaling independence, signaling that she isn't chasing. Yet when she finally responds, she casually drops a detail you barely remember saying, something small, something insignificant to you, but clearly stored in her mind, like mentioning you dislike coriander days ago and then remembering it precisely when ordering food, and that contradiction is the clue. Most men measure interest by speed alone, and that's where they fail, because speed is surface level while memory is emotional investment, and memory requires attention, curiosity, and care. Don't react to the delay. Be smarter than that. That is the trap. You must reward the memory, not the timing, because when you acknowledge her remembering something personal, you validate the part of her that's leaning in without calling her out for protecting herself. Say it clearly. Say it calmly. You remembered that? That's impressive. This works because it reinforces attraction without pressure, and pressure is what makes her pull back. If you respond like a disappointed teacher, pointing out how long she took or subtly expressing frustration, she tightens up, not because she isn't interested, but because she senses emotional weight being placed too early, and emotional weight collapses tension instead of building it. This is how to fall in love slowly, safely, and naturally, by allowing space while rewarding connection, a core principle in female psychology that most men never learn. Don't chase reassurance. Be present. That is confidence. You must understand that selective delay paired with precise memory is often her way of staying in control of her emotions while still staying connected to yours, and that balance is exactly what attraction feeds on. This is why psychology tricks aren't about manipulation, but about awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you stop mislabeling interest as indifference and stop sabotaging moments that could grow into something meaningful. And here's where it gets even more interesting, because when she feels safe expressing interest quietly, the next thing she'll do is test you in public without admitting she's testing you, watching how you react when attention is divided, when social pressure is present, when you're not alone together, and if you've already shown that you understand subtext instead of demanding clarity, she leans closer instead of stepping back. Don't rush her. Be steady. That is what separates men who understand female psychology from men who argue with it. If you're paying attention to the subtext and not just the words, you already see how to fall in love isn't about speed. It's about rhythm, awareness, and emotional intelligence. And if you're truly listening, comment, listen, because that mindset alone puts you ahead of the men who miss these signals every single time. 5. She accidentally leaves you out, then checks if you still showed up. Have you noticed how she sometimes forgets to invite you, yet later checks to see if you're still coming? That moment matters more than most men realize. The group is going out for drinks. Everyone hears about it. But you don't get the direct, "you should come." No clear invite, no spotlight. Then later, almost casually, she texts, "Are you coming or not?" That is not indifference. Don't mislabel it. Be calm. That is her trying to manage her image while still keeping you in mind. She wants to attract women's attention without looking eager herself. In female psychology, this is a classic push-pull. She leaves you out just enough to protect herself, then checks to see if you still show up. That check is the signal. You must learn to read it. Most men panic at the wobble. They read it as disrespect or uncertainty and react emotionally. Don't do that. Be steady. You don't need flawless signals to move forward. That is the trap inexperienced men fall into. A high-value man doesn't demand perfection. He understands intent. Show up if you want to. Don't punish the hesitation. Don't interrogate her about why you weren't invited directly. That pressure kills attraction fast. Masculine energy is calm, grounded, and responsive, not reactive. This is one of those psychology tricks where your reaction matters more than her behavior. Try this instead. Keep it light. Keep it clean. "Yeah, I'm coming. Next time, just say you want me there." Say it without tension. Say it without edge. That line works because it communicates confidence and clarity at the same time. You're not chasing. You're not sulking. You're setting a tone. If you sulk, she pulls back. If you stay steady, she relaxes. That is how you attract women without force. That is how a high-value man handles uncertainty. He doesn't withdraw. He doesn't overinvest. He stays present. And here's the deeper layer. When she sees that you don't collapse emotionally over a small wobble, something shifts. She feels safer. She feels less pressure. Female psychology responds to emotional stability more than words. Masculine energy shows up in moments like this, not in speeches, not in tactics, but in how you carry yourself when signals aren't perfect. You must understand this if you want to attract women consistently. Watch closely, because once she sees you handle this well, the next thing she'll do is test you by disagreeing with you just to see if that same steadiness stays. That's where everything changes. 6. She disagrees with you while copying your exact words. When a woman disagrees with you but deliberately mirrors your exact words, pay attention because this is not random and it is not about winning an argument. It is a subtle psychological signal that she is mentally engaged with you far more than she wants to admit. You tell a story and casually say, "I'm not big on drama," and later she challenges you by repeating it back. "All right, mister, not big on drama. Explain why you did that." This is not confrontation for the sake of conflict. This is recall. This is attention. This is her replaying your language because it stayed with her. As old Stoic wisdom teaches us, what is repeated in the mind is what holds value. And when she repeats your words, she is revealing that you have already entered her internal world. Most men misread this moment. They hear disagreement and immediately feel tested, so they either push harder to prove a point or soften themselves to keep harmony. Both reactions fail. You are not there to win, and you are not there to retreat. You are there to observe and respond with clarity. Copying your words is a quiet form of connection, a way of holding on to you while pretending it is only logic. In modern life, where attention is fractured and emotional walls are high, people only echo what matters to them. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, meaning you do not mirror tension with tension. You meet it with composure. Do not turn her challenge into a debate. Do not sharpen your tone. Do not defend your identity. Simply smile, stay grounded, and respond with calm precision. Fair question. I wasn't avoiding drama. I was avoiding a pointless scene. Then pause, hand the energy back, ask, what would you have done? This does two things at once. It shows confidence without pressure, and it invites her deeper without chasing. This is Stoicism win in real time. This is iron mind behavior. When you answer with calm clarity, the dynamic shifts. The interaction deepens. She feels heard without feeling resisted, but if you snap, rush, or get sarcastic, she quietly withdraws and tells herself she was right to stay guarded. Remember, attraction often hides behind resistance, and interest often wears the mask of challenge. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This moment is not about her words, it is about your response. Old Stoic wisdom teaches mastery of reaction, not suppression of emotion. Stoicism win is about knowing when to speak and when to stay still. An iron mind does not rush to correct, it invites reflection. In today's world, where emotional reactivity is common and calm presence is rare, your ability to remain centered becomes magnetic. So the instruction is simple and precise. Read the signal, keep your frame, respond with ease, and let her curiosity do the work. You are not proving anything. You are revealing who you already are. If this hit home, don't just watch and move on. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp psychology, and share it with a man who keeps misreading signals. Now lock this lesson in by commenting the line below. Comment to remember. When she challenges me using my own words, I stay calm, clear, and grounded. That's how attraction deepens. Say it. Own it. That calm clarity is the edge most men never develop. 7. She complains about you in a way that sounds like praise. When a woman complains about you in a way that secretly sounds like praise, that is one of the clearest signs she's pretending not to like you while actually feeling drawn in. And this is where most men misread female psychology completely. She'll say something like, "You're so annoying, you always notice everything," or, "Ugh, you're the worst. You make me laugh when I'm trying to stay mad." And on the surface, it sounds like criticism, but underneath, it's admiration slipping out sideways. Don't get stuck on the first half of the sentence. Be sharp enough to hear the second half. That is where the truth lives. She's telling you that you're perceptive, emotionally present, and able to shift her mood without trying. That matters. That is attraction. Many men panic here. They either apologize too much or puff their chest like they just won a prize. Don't do either. Don't reject it. Don't over-celebrate it. Be calm. Be grounded. A simple response like, "Yeah, it's a gift and a curse. I'll try to use it responsibly," does something powerful. It accepts the praise without chasing validation. That balance is rare, and rare things pull attention. This is one of those subtle psychology tricks that works because it aligns with female psychology, not against it. She's testing how you handle attention without asking directly. She's watching whether you crumble, perform, or stay centered. That is the real question behind the words. You must understand this. When she frames praise as a complaint, she's protecting herself emotionally. She's allowing closeness while keeping plausible distance. That's how attraction often begins when feelings feel risky. Don't rush to label it. Don't try to lock it down. Just stay present. Stay steady. Watch her eyes, her tone, her timing, because the next thing she asks you won't really be a question at all. It will be an invitation disguised as curiosity, a probe to see how safe it feels to step closer. This is where men who understand how to fall in love don't force moments. They allow them. They listen more than they speak. They respond instead of react. That is how you let interest grow without pressure. These psychology tricks are not about manipulation. They're about awareness. When you understand female psychology at this level, you stop guessing and start seeing patterns clearly. Be the man who hears what's said and what's meant. Be the man who doesn't flinch when admiration shows up wearing a mask. That calm confidence is what quietly turns playful complaints into real connection. And that is how attraction moves forward without you ever needing to push it. 8. She asks your opinion on something she's already decided. 8. She asks your opinion on something she has already decided, and this moment is far more important than it looks on the surface. She may say it casually, maybe even with a smile. Do you think I should take that job? While you're standing outside a restaurant, but inside, she's watching your face like it's a verdict. She already knows what she wants. That's the part most men miss. They hear a question and rush to solve it. Don't. This is not a problem-solving moment. Be clear about that. This is a connection moment. This is one of those psychology tricks hidden inside everyday conversation. And if you understand it, you begin to attract women without trying to impress them. She isn't asking for instructions. She's asking how safe it feels to let you into her inner world. That is the test. Most men either overperform or check out. Both fail. If you launch into a lecture, listing pros and cons like a career coach, she feels managed. If you shrug and say, do whatever you want, the connection retreats and her walls quietly stay up. Don't do either. Be steady. That is the sweet spot. You must first reflect what you hear. Say something like, you sound excited, but you're trying not to admit it. That single sentence shows awareness. Awareness is attractive. Then go one layer deeper. Ask, what's the part that scares you? Now she feels seen, not judged. That is masculine energy used correctly. Calm, present, grounded. After that, add one clear vote. Not pressure, not approval seeking, just clarity. If this is what you want, I'm in your corner. That combination is powerful. It feels like partnership without control. It feels like support without ownership. This is how a high-value man shows strength. He doesn't steer her life. He stands beside it. When you do this well, you don't need to convince her of anything. Female psychology responds naturally to emotional steadiness. That is how you attract women who are emotionally aware, not reactive. Understand this clearly. When she asks your opinion on something she's already decided, she's not testing your intelligence. She's testing your emotional posture. She wants to see if you can handle closeness without tightening your grip. You must stay centered. You must stay calm. That is how masculine energy creates safety. And safety is what allows attraction to grow quietly. If you respond too intense, she feels watched. If you respond too casual, she feels alone. Steady is the middle path. That balance is rare. That rarity is why it works. Handle this moment correctly, and you'll notice something subtle but telling. She will begin to position herself closer to you in public. She'll stand nearer. Walk in sync. Angle her body toward you. And the interesting part is this: she can deny it out loud, but her body won't. That's female psychology in action. These psychology tricks aren't about manipulation. They're about understanding how to fall in love without forcing it. Be the man who listens first. Be the man who reflects instead of reacts. Be the high-value man who stays grounded when direction is being chosen. That calm presence is what truly attracts women, and it's what keeps them feeling safe enough to stay close. 9. She picks the seat that keeps you close but not too close. When a woman pretends not to like you, one of the clearest signs appears in something most men overlook, where she chooses to sit. Placement is never random when emotions are involved. As old Stoic wisdom teaches us, what we do not control often reveals more than what we say, a truth echoed by Marcus Aurelius, who reminded us that behavior is the mirror of the mind. You may be at a dinner with friends, with plenty of open seats around the table, yet you notice her scanning the room not casually but deliberately, weighing distance like a chess move. Sitting directly beside you would expose her interest. Sitting across from you would feel too safe. So she chooses the middle ground, one chair away, same side of the booth, close enough that a knee might brush yours, far enough that she can blame the table, the crowd, or coincidence. This is not confusion. It is control, a quiet test. Because in modern life, attraction often hides behind plausible deniability, especially for women who value emotional safety. Most men misunderstand proximity as either a clear signal or nothing at all. But when she is hiding her feelings, closeness becomes a controlled experiment, a way to feel you without being seen wanting you. This is where Iron Mind discipline separates the reactive man from the grounded one. She watches carefully how you respond to the small moments, the knee bump, the shared menu, the shoulder touch, not to trap you, but to observe you, to see whether you freeze, overreact, or retreat into fear. Because confidence today is not loud, it is regulated. And as Seneca said, he who is brave is free, meaning free from panic, free from ego, free from the need to perform. So the instruction here is simple but powerful. Match her pace, not her tension. If her knee brushes yours, do not turn it into a performance. Do not make a joke to cover nerves. Do not pull away like you've done something wrong. Instead, acknowledge lightly and calmly, maybe with a soft, "You okay?" and then return to the conversation. That response does two things at once. It gives her an exit without embarrassment and permission to stay without pressure. This balance is what Stoicism win principles are built on: emotional steadiness over emotional hunger, presence over pursuit, strength without force. Remember, earlier she may have ended moments when things felt good, pulled back when warmth appeared. But this move is different. This is her trying to keep the moment alive without admitting she started it. If you stay composed, grounded in old Stoic wisdom, repeating calm responses instead of anxious guesses, you show her something rare in modern dating: a man with an iron mind who does not chase signals, does not fear missteps, and does not need certainty to remain steady. And that steadiness is what quietly wins. Because attraction grows where safety meets confidence. Mastery here is not about decoding tricks. It is about mastering yourself again and again until your presence alone becomes the answer. If you made it this far, you're starting to see what most men completely miss. Attraction isn't loud, it's subtle, it's controlled, and it rewards the man who stays calm, present, and emotionally grounded instead of rushing the moment. If you're ready to stop misreading the signs and start responding with confidence and restraint, comment this below to lock it in. I stay calm, read the moment, and let attraction grow naturally. Comment it now. The men who understand this don't chase signals. They let signals come to them. 10. She finds a practical excuse to message you after acting cold. When a woman acts distant and then suddenly finds a practical reason to message you, that moment matters far more than most men realize, because this is one of the clearest signals in female psychology that she's interested but protecting herself. She goes quiet for a day or two, and you feel that subtle letdown, that inner voice saying, "All right, guess that didn't mean anything." So you start emotionally stepping back. Then, out of nowhere, she sends a harmless question: the name of a show you mentioned, a repair shop recommendation, something that looks random and practical on the surface. Don't dismiss this. That message is not about the laptop or the TV show. That is a low-risk doorway. It allows her to reconnect without exposing her feelings, without risking embarrassment, without openly saying she missed you. These psychology tricks aren't manipulative games, they're safety mechanisms. If you shut her down, she can tell herself it was never emotional. If you respond well, she learns something important about you. Most men miss this because they answer like a help desk, polite, dry, efficient, and in doing so, they quietly close the door she just opened. Don't do that, but also don't swing to the other extreme. Don't punish her with silence. Don't overwhelm her with long explanations. Be calm, be warm, be specific. Add a touch of personality. Use her name once, naturally, because that creates connection without pressure. Before you hit send, pause for 10 minutes and remove any trace of frustration from your tone. You must understand this. Resentment leaks through text faster than confidence ever does, and she will feel it immediately. If you answer too cold, she concludes that returning to you isn't emotionally safe. If you answer too eager, she feels the balance shift and instinctively pulls back again to regain control, disappearing even longer next time. But if you answer steady and lightly playful, you set a tone she can trust. That tone says, "I'm here, I'm grounded, and I'm not chasing." This is where female psychology becomes very clear. Once that tone is established, she starts observing something deeper than your words. She watches how you treat people who can't offer you anything, how you respond when there's no reward. This is how attraction quietly grows. This is how to fall in love without forcing it. So don't rush, don't overthink. Respond like a man who values connection but doesn't need validation. That balance is rare and it's powerful. When you understand these psychology tricks, when you respect how female psychology actually works, you stop reacting emotionally and start leading the interaction calmly. And that's when her practical messages slowly turn into something much more personal, because now she feels safe enough to let them. 11. She watches how you treat people who can't impress you. You'll spot it when you're out with her and someone unimportant enters the frame. A waiter, a barista, the awkward friend who talks too much and laughs a beat too late. She gets a little quieter. Her eyes flick from you to them and back again, like she's taking notes while pretending she's just listening. Most men assume she's judging their charm. No, she's judging their default setting, and that is a huge difference. When a woman is pretending not to like you, she can't afford to fall for a performance. She doesn't want the date version of you. She wants the unfiltered version, the one that shows up when there's nothing to gain, nothing to win, nothing to prove. That's why this moment matters more than any compliment you could give her. She's asking a silent question. Is he kind when it doesn't benefit him? That's where a high-value man separates himself without even trying. Not by being flashy, not by being loud, by being steady. Don't treat kindness like a tactic. Be respectful like it's normal. That is the point. Say thank you like you mean it, not like you're dropping a coin into a machine and expecting attraction to pop out. Make jokes that include people, not jokes that step on someone's dignity just to get a laugh. You must understand this. Women don't only listen to what you say to them, they listen to what you say to the world. And in that quiet little moment, when the barista hands you the cup, when the waiter is busy, when the awkward friend is talking, she's reading your masculine energy more clearly than she ever could in a romantic conversation, because it's raw, it's automatic, it's real. So here's your move, and it's simple. Slow down. Be decent on purpose, not theatrical, not performative, specific. Hey, no rush. Take your time. Then you look back at her like you didn't just do a magic trick, because you didn't. You just showed her who you are, and that is exactly how you attract women without chasing them. That is exactly how a high-value man operates. Calm, grounded, respectful, because his masculine energy isn't something he turns on. It's something he lives in. If you're only warm when she's watching, the connection stays shallow. If you're steady with everyone, she stops pretending she doesn't care. And then she starts testing something even more personal next. How you handle goodbyes, how you handle space, how you handle the moments when attention isn't guaranteed. Stay steady. That is how you attract women. That is masculine energy. That is high-value man behavior without the need for a speech. 12, she says she's busy, then lingers at the exit like she's waiting. When a woman says she's busy but then lingers at the exit, pay attention, because behavior always speaks louder than words, and this is one of the clearest signals most men completely miss. She says, "I've got to run," yet her body doesn't move. Her hand rests on her bag strap. She stays planted by the door. She keeps talking as if time suddenly slowed down. This is not confusion. This is hesitation mixed with desire. Most men take her words literally and disengage too fast, but you don't. You notice the pause. You notice the space between what she says and what she does. As Old Stoic wisdom teaches, clarity comes from observing reality, not clinging to surface impressions. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." What's true here is simple. If she truly wanted to leave, she would already be gone. Do not call it out. Do not trap her with pressure or questions like, "So are you leaving or not?" That breaks the moment and forces her into defense. Instead, you provide a bridge, calm, casual, certain. Walk with me for 30 seconds. That's it. No neediness, no explanation. If she follows, you have your answer. She wanted the moment but didn't want to ask for it. This is where Stoicism wins separates the emotionally centered man from the reactive one. You stay grounded, you stay relaxed, you lead without forcing. In modern life, where everyone is overstimulated and guarded, emotional safety is rare, and women test for it constantly. Lingering is one of those tests. She wants to see if you can read the room without demanding clarity she isn't ready to give. This is iron mind thinking. You do not chase words. You respond to energy. You understand that attraction often hides behind caution, especially in public or transitional moments. And this pattern becomes even clearer in group settings, where she may say she's done for the night but remains nearby, laughs a little longer, or delays that final goodbye. These are not accidents. These are invitations wrapped in uncertainty. As Epictetus taught, we suffer not from events but from our judgments about them. Do not judge her hesitation as rejection. Judge it as restraint mixed with interest. Stay composed, stay observant. Repeat this principle until it becomes instinct. Watch what she does, not what she says. Watch her feet, not her excuses. Watch the pause. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern dating. This is Stoicism win in action. This is how an iron mind reads signals without anxiety, moves forward without pressure, and wins by staying calm, present, and unmistakably centered. If this moment sounded familiar, you're already paying attention in ways most men don't. Like the video if it helped you see attraction more clearly. Share it with a friend who always takes words too literally. And don't forget to subscribe for more psychology-backed wisdom on attraction and confidence. Comment this affirmation to lock it in. I notice the pause. I create space, not pressure. Because the man who stays calm, observant, and grounded doesn't need to chase. He recognizes the moment and invites it forward. 13. He acts unimpressed in the group, but softer when it's just you. She acts unimpressed in the group, but softer when it's just you, and this detail matters more than most men realize, because in public she keeps a cool, controlled presence while everyone else is reacting openly. You're making people laugh, the energy is high, and she's the one offering a small smirk that quietly says, "All right, don't get carried away." Not because she isn't entertained, but because group settings trigger self-protection and image awareness in female psychology, especially when attraction is involved. So don't misread that surface calm as disinterest. That is the first mistake men make when they don't understand psychology tricks at play in social dynamics. Because later, when the noise fades, when you're standing by the kitchen counter or stepping aside where the music is muted and the moment feels more personal, her tone shifts. Her body angle changes. She leans in. Her voice drops. And suddenly she admits almost reluctantly that what you said was actually funny. And that contrast is everything. Because most people only react to the public version of her, but you learn to respect the private one. And that awareness alone separates you from the crowd. So don't expose her softness in front of others. Don't tease her about pretending not to care. Don't point out the difference out loud in the group, because that forces her back into the mask she's wearing to feel comfortable. And when you do that, you undo the quiet trust you were building. Instead, be calm, be observant, be grounded. Understand that attraction often grows in subtlety, not performance. And in that quieter moment, you can acknowledge it lightly, without pressure, without trying to win anything, simply saying something like, "I notice you save the real reaction for later," then smile and move on. No pause, no expectation, because that shows emotional intelligence, restraint, and an understanding of how to fall in love without forcing it. And that restraint feels safe, it feels respectful, it feels rare, and that's why it works, because women often test emotional steadiness before emotional openness. And when she feels she doesn't have to perform or defend herself around you, she relaxes, she stays. She may even act slightly annoyed while still remaining close, and that combination is not rejection, it's engagement. So don't chase approval, don't demand validation, don't escalate too fast. Understand the rhythm of female psychology. Recognize these psychology tricks for what they are, signals of comfort mixed with curiosity. And remember, The man who understands the difference between public composure and private softness is the man who naturally becomes memorable because he doesn't need to push. He allows connection to unfold. And that is often how real attraction quietly begins, and how people slowly learn how to fall in love without even realizing it's happening. All right, that's it for today, my friend. If you found this video helpful or it made you see women's behavior a little more clearly, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Those small actions really help the channel grow and reach the right people. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced these signs before? Or do you see things differently? If you have feedback, questions, or even a different point of view, drop it in the comments. This is a space for real discussion, not judgment. Remember, understanding psychology isn't about tricks. It's about awareness, calm confidence, and knowing how to read situations without overreacting. Stay grounded, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.